Doki Doki.
What we're seeing is like the very, very earliest iterations of the metaverse. And in my mind, that the virtual worlds encompass that the best, in the sense that like I've made a lot of really good friends in these virtual worlds. I go to a lot of meetups in them. I go to pitch meetings in virtual worlds. I have a friend who launched a shoe store in CryptoVoxels, for example, and people can go in a store, buy his shoes as NFTs, put them on their character, and walk around. And like extrapolating that point out, right now he has one store and he's making some passive income. So maybe he could expand to multiple stores and make even more income, right? And then in the future, expand to different metaverses or different virtual worlds. So he's in Somnium Space, he's in Decentraland, the Sandbox, etc. And then maybe after he has 50 stores, he could go public via a social token or something like that, right? And maybe that token gives the users or the owners rights to choose the next shoe design. Maybe it gives them rights on revenue on the splits 50-50 or something like that. Obviously, that's definitely a security, but I think without regulatory kind of things aside, that future is totally possible today, and that's incredible. And that's how it goes to like this idea of like the metaverse and people making their full living inside virtual environments. And I just think that type of stuff is going to happen and be very common in the near future.
Wow. Are you sitting down? You need to be sitting down, because Andrew Steinwold is thinking big and investing big, and he's got his finger on the pulse of the metaverse, NFT, and our entire ecosystem. You're going to be blown away with everything you learn in this episode, because I sure was. This man is putting it all on the line for our world. He's an investor, but not a VC. He's an enthusiast, and he sees where things are heading. He was in the space investing in 2019. You better believe he believes in what we're doing. Thanks for listening. Please share this with your friends, rate us and review us. Hope you enjoy this great episode. NFT Cast is brought to you by Doki Doki. We're changing the face of NFT by creating an amazing gamified experience for collectors and a better revenue experience for artists. To learn more, visit us at degacha.com, DEGACHA.com. Today I have with us Andrew Steinwold, and Andrew is a venture capital investor, I guess, is the proper category. Is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah, I guess so. I'd like to say I manage a metaverse native investment fund, and I guess what I do is in the realm of VC, but I don't know. I don't want that label. I don't know. I like to be something different.
Yeah, I can understand
I guess
that.
I am.
Not the best rep in the world for
right,
that world. But, well, let's climb into that in a little bit. But first, kind of tell us about yourself, where you're from, how you ended up here, and why you ended up here.
Yeah, so I'm from Chicago, born and raised here, still here. I got involved in Bitcoin in 2013, and I actually sold on Bitcoin in 2014, which is very unfortunate. But I thought there was a period of time where I was convinced I was the next Warren Buffett, because I was buying Bitcoin at $200, went up to 1,000, and I was like, I am a freaking genius. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. Then the price popped and it went back down to 200, and I sold everything, right? But luckily, I don't even know what blockchain was. I had no idea what any of this was. But that kind of event took me down the rabbit hole of what blockchain really is. And it took me some weeks to understand. And when it finally clicked, I thought, okay, wow, this technology is going to be a massive game changer for just not only money, but everything, right?
Right.
And that just set me down the path. And I became obsessed with blockchain and not Bitcoin. And I was trying to do startups in 2014 involving blockchain, in 2016 another startup, both has completely failed. And then luckily in 2016, I was like, you know what, there's a lot of speculative value in these coins. There might not be a lot of, value and like real value here, fundamental value. But I'm going to kind of jump back into the market. Really lucky timing, because 2017 happens. Obviously the market went crazy. And so what I've been trying to do is contribute to the ecosystem by building. I'm not technical myself. And so I thought, okay, how I can contribute is by deploying capital to the best teams and to the best builders. And so I started a crypto fund in July 2017 with my partner, Dan Patterson. And he's a private equity guy, because obviously I knew nothing about funds. My previous job was completely unrelated whatsoever. And we operated that vehicle for a number of years with just our capital. And then we took on investor capital. And we've done well, but we did not expand fast enough to become kind of one of the top players. And with funds, it's interesting because you need to get to a certain size in order to attract a lot of great deal flow. Like we can't compete with like the multi-coins, polychains, et cetera, when we're like, a $10 million fund, and they're like $100 million fund plus. Now they're like all $1 billion ffunds. But, so we were kind of looking at what niche within crypto can we enter and become, big players in. And so I got really lucky that kind of discovered, I discovered NFTs back in 2017 when I first bought CryptoKitties, but nothing clicked for me. It wasn't until February of 2019 I went to NFT NYC, which is like the quote unquote big NFT conference in New York. There was like 200 people there max, and I met a guy there who his name is Jin, and he kind of explained to me the whole thesis of the metaverse, and I watched Ready Player One, read the books, and Snow Crash, read the book, but I didn't really put two and two together that NFTs and blockchain were the technology that's going to bring the metaverse to life. The metaverse is basically a virtual environment that people live, work, and play in. And the reason blockchain is so important is because it's just digital property rights. Right. And no one wants to live, work, and exist inside of an environment that's controlled by Facebook, that's controlled by like Epic Games or whatever. They want to be able to be secure in the fact that they own whatever they're, all the effort and time they're putting into something. They can get money from that. They can earn value from that. Right. And so that to me was the missing piece of the puzzle. I figured that out by talking to Jin at that conference, and the light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, wow, this is what I have to do. NFTs are the future. And so I set up the fund in September 2019. Again, just my personal capital. I built the track record, and then kind of raised outside capital, and then launched January 1st of this year.
So you do have other limited partners in your fund as well. So it's not just your own capital.
Correct.
Cool. And so when you're investing in the metaverse, that's all components of kind of, I think everyone thinks of NFT and thinks of just digital art. I think most of us could realize that there's some gaming attribution there that we can probably see coming down the line. But you're thinking of this as a bigger picture of kind of a world we end up living in is kind of what you're thinking, right? I remember when my son was about 4 or 5, he was he was a big, he still is big in Minecraft, right? He's 14 now, and he one morning was working on there's an entire land, Middle Earth in Minecraft that this group of people have created, and he got admitted in. He applied, and they let him in when he was like 4 years old. And all these people were helping him. They were guiding him, and it was adults from all over the world guiding him and helping him. And one day I said to him, Zachary, it's time to go to bed. You've got your birthday party tomorrow. We got to get up and everything. And he had been on his microphone with these other people around the world. And the next morning he woke up, and these people had built inside of Middle Earth this entire birthday world for my son. And I said, and it kind of just hit me at that moment. I said, wow, we're really headed towards this virtual world. And to this day, my son has friends all over the world, and they only exist in virtual worlds. I mean, they'll do a Discord call, but they only exist in these virtual worlds. And I think I kind of think that's kind of what you're saying, where we're headed, is that there's going to be a component, a big part of our lives that it continues to exist virtually, and that these investments that you're making surround that world. Is that really kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at, first of all, the story is incredible, and it's such a great kind of example of what's happening today. It's not like what's going, like, oh, maybe in the future that'll happen. It's like, no, that's really happening today. Yeah. And if you look at the two main trends of screen time is on the up and up. Like, I think the average person born today in these states will spend on average 44 years of their life staring at screens. Right? That's between phone, computer, TV, right? Just on screens, right?
Right.
And if you look at technological immersion, we had Telegram, which is then deciphering messages through like Morse code or whatever, like dots and then we moved on to telephone, so I could actually hear someone through a line, which is incredible, like huge step forward. And then we had internet, which is instant and free written communication, text mostly. But now we're into video calls, so people can see me and hear me, that's a huge leap forward. Yep. And then if you just extrapolate that out, like, okay, probably 5, 10, 15 years, we're going to be in a virtual conference room in some lightweight headset, and I'm going to be able to shake your hand, and we'll feel each other's hands, right?
Right.
So I think that's it's where we're headed. Like these trends are happening with or without the blockchain. But in my opinion, NFTs and blockchain technology, that's when it becomes real, and we can actually because you need money to live, right? You need money to pay for groceries and stuff, and pay for rent, etc. And so by enabling people to make a living online, completely native to the digital environment that they're in, that's when you open up the doors to the metaverse. Like to me, that's a real metaverse. You don't need a headset for it to be the metaverse. You could use your computer, or use your cell phone, or whatever. But if you're able to have a job that's maybe your son was getting paid, in some sort of crypto token to build up that Middle Earth, and you could exchange that token for Ether, and then exchange that token for US dollars and go buy groceries or whatever. That to me is what the metaverse is all about. It's about optionality and ownership.
That's awesome. I think that's just an amazing viewpoint to take with an investment vehicle. Are your investments, are you a 5-year, 10-year kind of, I don't want to put you in the VC pocket, but time horizon for you, or kind of how do you think about your investments? Are you investing in tokens around projects and you see those as shorter term, and you're also taking equity stakes, I know, in a couple of companies? Where do you see kind of your horizon for your investments?
Yeah, so we really like to be, so basically for us right now, the best kind of asset that's going to enable the metaverse is NFTs, right? So really, we say metaverse because we want it to be very broad in what we're able to do. Right. But in reality, we're very focused on the NFT ecosystem, and that can be NFTs, investing directly into NFTs, investing into fungible tokens that relate to NFTs, right. Or that can be investing into equity of NFT related startups, private equity of NFT related startups. So we really are, focused broadly on the NFT sector, and yeah, we definitely like to take a long-term approach. We're not traders, and that's not really our forte. We like to be research-driven, fundamentals-based investors, essentially, where we discover a great NFT product, a great NFT token, a great NFT company, and do our research, dive deep into that project, meet the team, look at the product, inspect the token economics, et cetera, and then make an investment decision based off of that. So essentially, what we're doing is venture, as much as I don't like to say it. Like, yeah, I guess like we are a venture firm, but I like to say that we're a metaverse native one that really, because I don't know any other firms that are focusing on NFTs directly, right? Right. And there's different theses that investment theses that basically that you have to use when you're looking at an NFT, when you're looking at a fungible token, or when you're looking at equity of a startup, right? Right. So yeah, we like to do it all, but hyper focus on the NFT sector.
So, and your investments, like you say, I want to make sure people understand, your investments include, you're actually investing in NFT art, right? So you're actually buying art and holding it and investing in it. You're investing in NFT oriented projects in terms of buying tokens, and you're also investing in NFT/metaverse projects for stake and equity. So you're giving them a percentage of funds, and you're getting a percentage of the company back. And all of those things are a part of what you'll invest in the future. You're just going to continue. Do you see yourself spending as much and continuing to spend in the actual art arena and collection, that kind of thing? Or do you think that's going to be a bigger or smaller part of your overall investment?
Yeah, really good question. It's actually kind of funny. We don't have that large of a position in NFT art at all. Okay. We really, so we kind of bucket the NFT asset category into 5 rough buckets. Number 1 is collectibles. Okay. They're assets with little to no utility. You can think of them like baseball cards or crypto kitties. Got it. Number 2, they're game assets. It's assets with high levels of utility within their universe. It's like a sword with 10 attack damage, or an axe with X amount of defense, whatever. Something with stats. Number 3 is virtual land. These are like user-owned social e-commerce gaming platforms all rolled into one. It's kind of like a next-generation social platform where like there's no set objective. You kind of just go in the world and do whatever you want.
There's like crypto voxels and
exactly. Okay. Yeah. Number 4 is crypto art, just art tokenized and put on blockchain. And then number 5 is other. It's like domain names, property titles, insurance, all these other smaller categories that are small today, but one day will be very large. Okay. So we really focus on the first 3 categories, which were collectibles, game assets, and virtual lands. And then we have a very minor allocation to crypto art. And this is on the NFT specific side. So the actual NFT asset class, those are the kind of the categories we look at. And the reason being is because on the art side, art's highly subjective. And we feel as of right now, we don't have a great grasp on the fundamental valuation of art. We would like to get there because I'm extremely bullish and extremely excited about the crypto art space and digital art as a whole. But we wanna kind of play in arenas that we feel like we have a more solid grasp on versus something that's highly subjective.
NFT Cast is created by Doki Doki, where NFT collecting is a fun, gamified experience and artists earn more. Please visit us at degacha.com, DEGACHA.com. How much of what you do is understanding the tech of it, right? So your investment in YGG, is that more of a tech play from your perspective, or a strategy / business model play?
Yeah, good question. I think that the tech that enables YGG, which is Yield Guild Games, to function is not super, complicated or intense.
Okay.
It's more so a bet on Gabby, number one. So team, obviously, that's kind of like the first thing you look at.
Sure.
I've known Gabby for years. He's an amazing guy, extremely intelligent, hardworking, etc. And so first of all, it's kind of a bet on him. But then second of all, back in 2019, we were having conversations about NFT farming and what that would look like, was to have people around the world play games within the NFT space and earn value from those games and share it with a kind of an entity. And little did I know he was going to go through with that and make something as incredible as Yield Guild, where
That's great.
He created this DAO where people across the world are incentivized, via token and via massive earning potential to play games and earn money by playing the games, and that's just like so crazy. And the fact that it's tokenized as a DAO and anyone can have exposure to that, it's incredible. And so I kind of see it as part NFT fund, part NFT farming operation, and then part NFT gaming community. And that last part is really important because there's so much about the NFT sector and blockchain just in general is about community. Because what we're doing with NFTs and blockchain more broadly is we're flipping the current paradigm of the internet from value extractive of users to value additive. So and that goes back to the ownership. So it's like when I use Facebook, I don't get Facebook stock. When I use Substack, I don't get Substack stock, right? But with blockchains and DAOs and NFTs, suddenly users have skin in the game where they can potentially earn value from playing and interacting with these platforms. That's crazy. That is so wild, and the ramifications of that are not well understood yet. But it's totally flipping the current paradigm, and I think that that's when we get to this metaverse thesis that I have.
That's awesome. I really love that value extractive moving to value additive. I think that's brilliant, man. I love that part of your thesis. That's excellent. Real quickly, pronounce the name of your firm for me, your investment firm.
It's called Suffermion, but okay. We are potentially going to have a name change, and you're the first person I've told that to publicly.
Breaking news.
Reason being just because at first I want to be very esoteric because what I was doing was so esoteric. This is in 2019 when I was setting this up, and like NFTs were not cool, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be very low key and not kind of talk publicly about what I'm doing. I'm just going to go for it. And then as time progressed, I realized that being a public is way more impactful and gets you better access to deal flow, gets you better access to people and capital and everything basically. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to be public. I'm going to be very public, newsletter, podcast, etc. And something else I need to do is I need to have a name that's very appealing because no one can pronounce this name that I set up. So I've registered the name Snow Crash Capital.
Nice.
And Snow Crash is obviously the book that Neil Stephenson wrote back in '92, I believe. And he was the person who first coined the term Metaverse.
Nice.
And so, that's what we're going to be changing our name to.
I love that, man. I think that's awesome. Because I actually looked up the meaning of the word, and I was even more lost. With the physics tie in there.
Yeah. So let me briefly explain the Suffermion kind of name, just so I can defend myself here. So Suffermion is the name of a hypothetical particle, and obviously the world exists of particles, right? Sure. And fermions are the most common particle, and there's this theory called supersymmetry that states that every particle has a hypothetical partner that we can't really observe, but we think it exists. right? So my thought process was, okay, I'm not investing in a physical sword or a physical piece of art or a physical piece of land. I'm investing in the digital counterpart that doesn't actually exist, but we think it exists. And so I thought, okay, that's a great name to call a
That is
firm,
actually that's great.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm almost
that was the thought
disappointed you're
process.
changing it now.
I know, right? But really, I'm thinking now in terms of like brand
Having to
awareness and
explain it.
marketing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Have you been able to generate a good amount of deal flow from the podcast and the newsletter?
Oh my gosh, I think it's been the most impactful thing that I've done by far. Because yeah, and it's turned my small operation to essentially a 10-man team
Wow.
because I'm able to hypothetically, but I'm able to kind of first of all learn. So that's really really important. Is that I get to be like, hey, I want to talk to this founder, and I can reach out to them and say, hey, I have a podcast. Do you want to talk? And so it's almost like a free learning
Love it.
session because I got to learn from the person who's created this thing,
Yep.
whatever it might be, and then also yeah, it's been incredible for deal flow as well, just because people are saying, hey, I'd love to love for you to have an allocation into our round or whatnot because I would love to first of all leverage your expertise in the space as being someone who's been in it for a very long time and highly focused on it, but also a huge factor is I have a newsletter and podcast that's popular in the space. So it's like I couldn't suggest it to anyone who's trying to build a brand name for whatever they're doing.
Right.
Just start writing about it, start learning about it, and just show your passion publicly, and people will enjoy that. So yeah, I think it's amazing.
That's awesome. That's great. It's good to hear that it's working. And real quickly, I noted in one of your posts, and I want to talk about B20 a little bit, but you actually wrote in there that Substack was banning NFT URLs.
Yeah, so it actually turns out to be crypto URLs because I've been talking to some more people about it, and they recently started doing that, which is super unfortunate. And I don't really know why. I guess because we're in a bull market. There's a lot of scammers that pop up in bull markets,
Sure.
and that's my assumption. I reached out to the team. So basically, every post now I have to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm about to launch this newsletter. Can you approve? They go on their back end, they approve, and then I can release it. So it's a huge pain. And kind of makes me really excited for Web3 versions
Yeah.
of Substack to pop up. But
Yeah.
hey, it's what we have, right?
It's just interesting that that's the place that so many people went to because they wanted, as a journalist, to avoid what they
Totally.
were dealing
Yes.
with in the real world, and they went to Substack, and now Substack is doing that. I found that fascinating. Okay.
I was shocked.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this B20 investment, just because I'm so fascinated by it and kind of how it came about, and the primary person behind it, because I think there's a fascinating story there too. I'd just love if you could kind of tell us about B20 and how it works. And I also think it's a really cool vehicle for other types of investments. So
Totally, yeah. So B20 is a token that is basically a fractionalized bundle of 20. Well, it consists of a lot of different assets, but mainly 20 individual Beeple art pieces. Beeple
Okay.
being that famous artist who has been at Christie's now and been all over the place, and he's been making one piece of digital art for the past 13 years straight. So
Yeah.
I mean that's just incredible. And it also consists of a Blau music NFT, which is also great because Blau is just an OG who's been crushing it lately. And then also land in Decentraland, CryptoVoxel, Somnium Space, and these beautiful builds made by Voxel Architect, who's kind of like the top metaverse builders right now.
Okay.
So basically, B20 represents ownership in this bundle of all these assets that I mentioned, and there's 10 million of these tokens, and there's a buyout clause that's going to be released, I think, in the next couple of days. Buyout clause basically states that hey, if you get 5% of the tokens, you're able to make a bid on this bundle, which I think right now I can't talk about kind of specific valuations, but I love the B20 bundle. I think it's a great way to get exposure to Beeple because a lot of people, Beeple is now a hard asset to get.
Sure.
And also I think it's a great way to get exposure to a broad basket of kind of high value land because the land parcels that Metaverse purchased for this bundle are extremely high value and great locations. And also you have the Blau NFT, which is just like cherry on the top. Where Blau his last sale was, I think, I don't know if it was the last sale, but he made $11 million in that one sale, and he's kind
Right.
of seen as the premier NFT music kind of creator. So
this is a bundle of digital assets, and people can own a fraction of that. And there was a cool model in there that someone can come into you, and I want to make sure I understand. Somebody has to own 5% of the tokens in order to make a bid on the total package. Is that what you were saying?
So I could be wrong, but I believe it is 5%. Last I remember, it's 5%.
And then they make a bid, and then the DAO, the token holders, decide whether to accept that bid. And if that bid is denied, then the asking price goes up 8% from the offer that person made.
From my understanding, yes, but
okay.
I could be wrong.
Well, I love the model. I mean, just even if that's just the basic concept behind it, it's really cool. I think it opens up so many opportunities.
Yeah, what I love is that there is a buyout feature. It is very direct. It's very kind of just, hey, there is a buyout feature. You can acquire all these assets in this bundle, and because we've seen some bundles in the past where the buyout mechanism is a little bit. I mean, they're all a little confusing, but kind of a little obscure. Where maybe there is not really a direct buyout feature. Maybe there's some sort of process you can go through, but it's very kind of convoluted. And this is just hey, there is a buyout feature. Don't worry. You can get all the assets in here. So I think if someone wanted to swoop up and potentially make some offers and acquire these assets, it would be like, again, I can't talk about valuations, but I do like the project.
And then I guess the token is, because it is traded on DeFi exchanges, I'm assuming, then the token obviously is pushing the overall value up because it's got a market cap for the total token current value and the price, right? So if you're coming in, you've got to at least get over that.
Yeah. And most people, they look at most people are using the Beeple art pieces as like the valuation framework because they represent the vast majority of the value that's in there.
Right.
And so, there's 20 one-of-one Beeple pieces, right?
Nice.
And if you go on like Nifty Gateway, the addition pieces of Beeple, which are like additions of like 100 plus, maybe 200 plus, those are going for like $150,000, $160,000 per piece. So if you have a one-of-one, you got to imagine it's worth a couple $1 million each.
Easy.
And there's 20 of them, right?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I just think it's a great way. It's like democratizing access to everyone to get access to high value art pieces plus a diversified basket of other high value NFTs.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think for the individual coming into this space trying to figure out where to put money, something like that makes a ton of sense, right? It's a way to feel good because the investment looks strong, because so many people are interested in it and the names in it are big. I think it's a really smart play. Now, who created this pack? Who created B20?
So B20 was created by Metaverse, which is a NFT fund entity. It's kind of like an NFT fund / NFT studio. It's like a multifaceted entity.
Okay.
It was which is run by Metacoven and Tubador, who are two pseudo-anonymous guys that I've been friends with for a while, and they're geniuses. Like well, first of all, I met Metacoven back in New York a few years back, and like the nicest guy ever. Like he was like suspiciously nice. I was like, who is this guy? Like, because I knew that he was like a whale, and usually I don't know, people generally that are have that much means behind them are not so kind. That's a broad statement, but
usually have an attitude.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And this was like the polar opposite of that. But then also, I remember, kind of them talking to me about Beeple, and again, I'm not like super into the art space, so I didn't really know, but their conviction was just like, Beeple is going to be our generation of Warhol. Like they were so, this is like way back when, this is back in like before B20 launched, and they were just obsessed with it. And I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but like, cool, like have fun guys, like whatever. And I think that they're correct. And so they're very, anyways, I think that they have a really good eye, not only for art, but just kind of to see where the trends are going. And also I think that there's part of what they're doing is they're building products to create the trend. So not only are they seeing where the future's headed, but they're building stuff to
it's 11:30
kind of capitalize on that, which I think is genius, right? So,
That's brilliant. That's great. I got to try to see if we can get those guys on the podcast, although I'm sure they're
totally.
in demand. Okay, let me get back up to my question list. I was making notes with us. All right, so I will tell you that from my perspective, I definitely believe that kind of this virtual world thing is where we're headed. And so I think your thesis is awesome. I will tell you my own personal experience with things like Decentraland and other places, because I wasn't joining in a group of people or I didn't have connections in there, I found it interesting and cool, but I found kind of adapting into that world really difficult to get into. Now that could also be my age as part of it as well. But and I haven't been a big gamer my whole life, so I think that's a factor as well. But what do you think it's going to take for kind of a I realize there have been billions of dollars in virtual worlds already over the last 20 years. But what do you think it's going to take for kind of how we end up in that? Is there like a gaming entry point that makes these worlds more common and something that people are wanting to live in and exist in beyond the market of people that are in there now? What are your thoughts? NFT Cast is created by Doki Doki, where NFT collecting is a fun, gamified experience and artists earn more. Please visit us at degacha.com, DEGACHA.com.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I see gaming separate from NFT gaming separate from virtual worlds.
Okay.
Because virtual worlds, in my opinion, are like next generation social platforms because there's no objective. You go in there, you can, and like mainly what you do is whatever you want. It's like talk to people, you can build a house, you can build a gallery, you can go play a mini game, you can go shopping, buy some NFTs in the world or whatnot. And so, but like it's a next generation social platform in the sense that there's no objective, it's social, and also there's user upside, right? So you buy a piece of land, and if that overall platform does well, then in theory your land should go up. So that's a huge incentive, skin in the game.
Sure.
So I think that right now the platforms that are out today are like the pre-Napsters of what we're going to see, and but that doesn't mean that they can't turn into the Napsters and then turn into the iTunes and then turn into the Spotify, right? So like
Sure.
They could evolve into that. I have no idea. I'm hopefully going to be around to kind of be there for when things like that do happen. But what we're seeing is like the very, very earliest iterations of the metaverse. And in my mind, that the virtual worlds encompass that the best, in the sense that I've made a lot of really good friends in these virtual worlds. I go to a lot of meetups in them. I go to pitch meetings in virtual worlds.
Nice.
I have a friend who launched a shoe store in CryptoVoxels, for example, and people can go in a store, buy his shoes as NFTs, put them on their character, and walk around. And like extrapolating that point out, right now he has one store and he's making some passive income. So maybe he could expand to multiple stores and make even more income, right? And then in the future, expand to different metaverses or different virtual worlds. So he's in Insomnia Space, he's in Decentraland, the Sandbox, etc. And then maybe after he has 50 stores, he could go public via a social token or something like that, right?
Love that.
And maybe that token gives the users or the owners rights to choose the next shoe design. Maybe it gives them rights on revenue, on the splits 50-50 or something like that. Obviously, that's definitely a security, but I think without regulatory kind of things aside, that future is totally possible today, and that's incredible. And that's how it goes to like this idea of like the metaverse and people making their full living inside virtual environments. And I just think that type of stuff is going to happen and be very common in the near future.
That's a really cool concept. I really love that. And I think that actually gets back to the root of my question. It's like once people understand what's possible financially, socially, within those worlds, I think that's kind of where you end up at that tipping point of breaking through. I love the shoe store idea. That's really cool. And then there's a real estate play there, and everything else that goes along with it. What do you have any investments from when you started in 2019 that you're still in that are that are doing well, not doing well, that you've kind of just forgotten about, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I would say mainly CryptoVoxels,
Cool.
CryptoPunks. Those are probably the two largest, but also Sandbox. I forget exactly when Sandbox was launched, but we were really early into that as well.
Nice.
And then those are kind of on the asset level, and then there are a few tokens that we've been invested in for a while. But on the NFT asset level, that's what we're kind of involved with. And then on the kind of the venture side, we had no venture investments in 2019 that related to NFTs.
Okay. Now, in terms of, I guess it's Yield Guild, right? That's a bit of a tech investment. What other are you currently doing or have any other tech like investments like that where you're It doesn't even have to be an equity stake, where it's you've really looked at the platform or what they're doing with NFTs or Metaverse, and you say, oh, this is going to change how we do things?
Oh man, yeah, there's so many. I mean, so NFT Fi, which is people call it Nifty Fi or NFT Fi.
Right.
I still don't even know the correct pronunciation, and I'm an investor, so I should probably know that. But yeah, I mean that's crazy. It's a platform where you can take your NFTs, put up on this marketplace, and people will offer you loans against that asset. So you can take your Beeple piece and say, hey, I'm going to put up my Beeple piece. I want $100,000 for a 90-day loan, right? And people say, okay, cool, I'll give it to you, but I want 20% APY, right, for that 90-day term or whatever, right? And you can either accept or deny that. Like that process, getting a loan without signing thousands of pieces of paper and going through banks and going through lenders and all this stuff, that's incredible. That's opening up a loan, a whole loan marketplace for a worldwide economy based off of these digital goods that we just created out of like thin air.
That's
right.
Awesome.
So that to me is like democratizing finance. And that's a great example of DeFi. And there's also art blocks, which I love. So I'm not a big generative artist guy, or I wasn't. And through my friend Snowfro, or his name's Eric, but he goes by Snowfro. He's a really, really early OG in NFTs. And I connected with him somehow. And he's so passionate about generative art on Ethereum and kind of blockchain that he got me obsessed with generative art. And I knew nothing about it. And he kind of just, he built this platform called Art Blocks. And it's a generative art platform that makes that any artist can go onto and start creating generative works of art. Generative basically just means that it's created by code and it's kind of random. Like you don't know what art piece you're going to get. It just spits it out for you,
right?
Which I think is really, really exciting. That's kind of on the creative side, and the NFT Fi is more the DeFi. There's another one that's coming out that I'm going to get involved with called Unically. Unically is really cool because just like B20 was a fractionalized basket of these, high value items curated by Metaverse, which is, like a well-known fund and basically all that stuff. There's a lot of technology that goes into setting up that bundle. Unically is basically democratizing that. And they're saying, hey, anyone now can easily input your NFTs here, click 3 buttons or whatever, and you can make this fractionalized basket of NFTs.
Nice.
So that's going to democratize. Like,
does that put it out as a token?
Yeah. So it'll hold those NFTs in a smart contract, and then there's tokens issued from that. So it's like you set we want 1 million tokens only, and we're going to do like the Metaverse land bundle, right? And you can put in whatever pieces of virtual land you want, and then create that basket. Or you want to do the arts, and you can choose. We're going to do
so cool.
Like female artist only or whatever, and then make that female artist basket. So it's going to be a crazy explosion of democratizing access for people to get exposure to different asset classes, and also it's going to be really big on curation, because if you're known in the community as someone who's very big into like art, and then you can go there and make this bundle and kind of show off your expertise, I guess.
It's like the future of gallery owners in the NFT space, right? Or curators, people who are pulling together what they think are the best artists. That's
100%. Yeah, it's
really
going to be really crazy.
How do you spell that?
Also, that is Unically. So I think I have it up here. UNICLY.
Okay.
And also, when is this going live?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay, cool. So I think I can talk about this. So there's also a platform called Alethea. It's Alethea AI, and they are bringing NFTs into like the 4th dimension, I like to say, because NFTs, in my opinion, are so far I've been thinking of them in very 2-dimensional aspects. It's like visual component, and then they maybe have some properties or some stats or some functionality. What Alethea is doing is they're adding an AI intelligence into NFTs. And I don't know if I can talk about this, but if it's going out tomorrow, then probably. Anyways, to be on the safe side, I just won't say it. But basically, they're going to level up how I thought about NFTs immensely, and really adding a whole new dimension to them. So it's gonna be really crazy.
And they're launching, I assume, in the next 24 hours or so.
So they're already kind of quasi-launched, but the thing that I'm talking about is going to be launching soon. I don't know exactly the time frame, but it's going to be announced tomorrow.
Anything else on that vein, on the tech side, that you think is?
Yeah, on the tech side. So, what else? I mean, I guess it was OpenSea on the tech side.
Yeah,
Would you count
sure,
that?
sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm an investor in OpenSea, which I'm just so happy about because I've been bugging Devin and Alex, the two founders, for like years about, hey, when can I invest? Hey, when can I invest? Hey, when can I invest? And I've just been the biggest fanboy of them. So to be able to kind of put my money where my mouth is
Nice.
and give them some capital, even though obviously they raised a huge round led by A16Z, and like the amount of money that I put in was very small, but it still means a lot to me that they accepted me as
Yeah.
someone, because when you're looking at the list of investors, it's like
Oh,
all big time
please.
people, and then there's like little old Andrew. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think it goes to show that if you're super passionate about something, you're super vocal about it, and you support whatever project or team that it is, then in theory that pays off, right? I wasn't expecting for them to actually let me in the round, but I was like, listen, like I just love them. I want to make it known that I love them, and because I have this audience, it's helpful, right? So
Yeah.
that's another example of where the podcast and newsletter come into play, because if you talk about a project enough passionately, then the founders will take notice.
Well, and that also is an insight into the founders themselves, right? That they're smart enough to recognize that you may not be A16S or anybody else in terms of size and scale, but you are someone who's growing their ecosystem, right? And to recognize that, and I'm sure they like you and and see your passion, but for a founder to be able to recognize how important that is, right? Someone who's solely focused on this space, someone who is driving it, promoting it, making it happen, that tells me that that's a smart founder, right? As opposed to someone who just takes the big money checks and, doesn't and ignores what's happening in the actual ecosystem. I think that's really smart. That's great.
Totally. And what I love about OpenSea is that they're a great aggregator. So it's like, I think in marketplace businesses, it tends to be winner take all, winner take most. And so to have one marketplace that aggregates everything, it doesn't matter if you're art or if you're gaming or whatever, on one central location, that's genius.
Yeah.
And the way they set up their infrastructure is like semi-decentralized. It's just Web3 wallet. There's no like, oh, got to be in America and got to have username, password, and bank account, whatever. It's just all Web3, which is great.
Yep.
And then also, like, I do think that the NFT space will bifurcate into their separate niches, in the sense that there's going to be a couple art marketplaces, a couple gaming, a couple virtual land, a couple whatever, right? And they're going to go into their niches. But then I do think there'll be one great aggregator, and I do think obviously that aggregator will be OpenSea.
Yeah, they're completely on their way to that. Every time I'm in there, I think of something I want them to add, and it seems like it gets added. Like,
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And the crazy thing is, for years, if there's any problems, because every once in a while there's a bug here and there, or something's not showing up or whatever, I'll just ping them. I'll say, hey, Dan from OpenSea is like my go-to guy, and I don't know if if he's bothered by me, but I'll say, hey Dan, like this stat, my Etherscan address is not linking correctly or whatever.
Right.
And based off of like the trading history, you can click it and it takes you to Etherscan. I say, okay, cool, give me an hour, and an hour later it'll be fixed. And I'm like, dude, how does he do that? Because he's probably so busy all day, and I'm one guy out of like there are over 100,000 users that are like constantly doing stuff, breaking stuff. So I mean, that right there just shows that they're just on it.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, what I've wondered about is, I think the biggest potential competitor to them is someone who won't go there, and that is MetaMask, right? Themselves, because if you're MetaMask, the data you have and the information you have, like on my mobile app for MetaMask, I can see my NFT assets, right? But I can't do much else besides see them, right? But on my desktop browser plugin, I can't see my NFT assets. But to me, I think that would be the biggest threat to any of the marketplaces in the space is that MetaMask could easily, add that as a component. I don't think they have the resources or want to focus on that, but I certainly think it's one of the risks. But otherwise, OpenSea's just killing it. I mean, and it's not like they're not the kind of marketplace or leader in a market where people are saying, I don't want this, I want something better, because they continually seem to be evolving what they're doing. So
yeah, and then also they could do small tweaks here and there to really just send them into the stratosphere, in my opinion. Like if right now they're a marketplace, if they wanted to, but they're part marketplace, part data provider, part Instagram, in the sense that when I want to look up someone's wallet, I'll type in their name on the search bar and I can view all their assets, right?
Right.
And that's kind of like the quasi Instagram. If they added like a direct message feature, then right away it's like, okay, you're opening up now social, which is incredibly sticky. And then also if they want to add in small community, not Discord, but like essentially small community chats like a Discord, then suddenly you're sucking away all that, because everyone has a Discord, right? So you're suddenly sucking away that community into
That's a good
OpenSea.
point. That's awesome.
And if they ever want to add a token, it's like game over. You know, it's
Please.
just like, yeah, right.
I heard him on an interview the other day saying that, hinting that that's coming down the road. So
I've been bugging him for years. So who knows?
Well, it's funny you talked about chat, because I replied to a Twitter, somebody on Twitter the other day that was saying, I just want to reach out to the person that has this asset and I can't find them. Who owns it? You know, he can see it. It's right there, you know, in somebody's wallet, but he has no way to communicate with that person. And
so I will always find someone's wallet, and I'll always go onto the Discord and say, hey, does anyone know blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh no, he's not, you know, he never talks, like we don't know who he is, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm just like, if they just add that feature, it would be huge, right?
Giant. NFT Cast is created by Doki Doki, where NFT collecting is a fun, gamified experience and artists earn more. Please visit us at degacha.com, DEGACHA.com.
And then, and going back to the token, like I actually was talking to Devin. I was like, listen, Devin, like you don't even need to launch it. Like you're in such a dominant position now. Don't do it, because it'll mess up your chances on going public in like a couple of years, right? Because I'm like so convinced that they're just going to be like Coinbase big, right?
Yeah.
But then also, like I talked to some other people and they're like, listen, sure, you know, maybe it'll complicate things a bit, but in reality, a token is like the best way to give a large group of people ownership and skin in the game in some sort of platform. Right. And then going off of that, I was like, you're 100% correct. It's my thesis of ownership, right?
Right.
So I'm kind of like, for them specifically, I'm kind of torn. But what I love is that they don't need to. Like, if they want to, they can do it and crush it. But they can just do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think anybody that's in the United States is terrified of doing anything, because the SEC won't tell us what we can and can't do. You know, and that's the most frustrating part about it. It's brutal. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks to have such an incredible early immature ecosystem developing, and people wanting to innovate and wanting to do crazy stuff. And I think that when a new technological paradigm happens, you have to experiment. You have to throw everything at the wall, see what sticks.
Right.
And yeah, some people are gonna lose their shirts, but that's kind of the cost of innovation. Like you don't get to the moon by everyone being completely safe. You got to take some risks, right?
Yeah.
So I think that our regulatory environment is not amazing. It's actually okay. I thought that they would crack down way harder, and they haven't yet. Knock on wood. But I think that ideally they could say, hey guys, every project has like a 3-year period to kind of do what they want, but then we need to see decentralization, or we need to see XYZ. But radio silence is on one hand it's okay, on the other hand it's bad, because I feel like if they came down and said, hey guys, these are the rules, they would probably not be in our favor, right?
No.
Yeah, so
you're right. It's scary, because if we get what we want, we may not like what we get, and we won't be able to do anything. But I also think they treat it like a honeypot, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like their incentive as employees in the SEC is to prosecute and win, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you keep it vague and you can trap people in, then you can get more wins, right? And so I think the incentives are messed up.
But if you look at like EOS did like $1 billion token raise, right?
Right.
And then the SEC injunction, or like the SEC fine that they had to pay, I think it was less than their domain that they bought, voice.com. I think voice.com was like $15 million, and they had to pay like $10 million. Right. So like on that hand, like I'm not a fan of EOS, but I'm okay with that, in the sense of at least they didn't scare everyone, shut it down completely, send the people to jail, and like totally crack down. But I think what EOS is like pretty atrocious. But I think what the SEC's response was like, that's okay, all things considered, right?
Yeah.
So
and if we get that reasonable standard, that's great. But I think it makes it really difficult for people. And I talk every day to people who are leaving the United States, investigating citizenship options, because who wants to risk everything? Jail time, fines, whatever it is. I think there is once you reach a size of an EOS where the fine is really a slap on the wrist, it's great. But if you're the guy with a $1 million market cap, and you're trying to build something, and at any moment you can get shut down, fined, whatever, that will kill everything you've built, it's hard. It makes it really difficult. 100%.
Yeah, and then also going back to like if we do get what we wish for, which is some clarity, I feel like America has so many captured agencies and captured regulatory agencies where the big banks or the big kind of players would input have their say in what gets actually put out there, then it would probably not end well for us. So I think this kind of, I don't know. Now that we're talking over, I feel like it's actually, I'm now leaning more towards the side of it's okay that they haven't come down with some clear-cut rules. Yeah,
yeah. We probably are better off and should be grateful that we haven't gotten those, but it's still frustrating. It's still very
100%.
frustrating. Do you consider yourself an Ethereum maximalist with your investments?
No, definitely not. So
Okay.
I personally love Ethereum. It's my favorite chain by far.
Right.
I mean, besides Bitcoin, Bitcoin's my favorite, but Ethereum's number two.
Right.
But no, in terms of investing, we just want to. So the fund's objective is to accelerate the emergence of the metaverse.
Right.
And for us, that's through property rights. So whatever chain gives users true property rights, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care if it's EOS, even though I don't like EOS, but if EOS somehow becomes decentralized, like then, hey, I'm an EOS fan now. Flow right now is pretty centralized, but I'm a big fan of Flow, and I see a lot of amazing teams building on Flow, right? So, and because I know I'm a big fan of them because their goal is decentralization, right? Which equals rights.
Right.
So whatever's best for the user is what I'm into, and I think in theory should perform very well in an investment. So,
Cool.
but that's kind of a theory. What we have seen out mostly is that people tend to not care about centralization or decentralization. So it's always kind of something I have to battle with in my mind of okay, maximizing our returns,
Right.
but also staying true to our core, which is like the metaverse.
Yeah, and I think longer term that'll be more important for you for end users as well. But right now, people just want to use things and make money, right?
100%. Yeah,
That's where we are in the space of things. Have you ever done anything on Wax?
I have not. The reason being, I don't know enough about Wax to bash it, so
Yeah,
I won't say anything. But from what I have seen from their products, is that the follow through is not as how do I say this? So they'll release a product with some IP that everyone knows and everyone likes, but then the follow through after that is not as rigorous or robust as I like it.
Right.
I like to see people saying like, if you're going to reach, what was it, Garbage Pail Kids? I don't really know what that is, but apparently it's some like popular thing, whatever it might be. I didn't see a very solid follow through in the sense of, hey guys, we're building this ecosystem, we're doing blah blah blah. It's like Garbage Pail Kids are like going to be great. That's not their fault. That's kind of like what's happening in the NFT space broadly, where there's a lot of people going out for short-term profits and not thinking about long-term ecosystem. So it's not Wax's issue. It's just that's what I personally seen. I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure people are going to say Wax is the best or whatever. But that's just what I personally seen. Well,
it's funny. I have friends that are in that space. I have one friend that's doing really cool kind of nonprofit fundraising type things in a Minecraft-oriented metaverse thing on Wax. I'm not sure about the details. And so I see some cool things happening. What I see that makes your point is, I see Wax doing Topps cards, I see Garbage Pail Kids, and I see Leonard Nimoy. But I have maybe it's just the PR isn't right, but I'm not getting any sense of why it needs to be on Wax or what the fundamental value is underlying it, And so that to me hasn't been something I have a wallet somewhere and it's got something in it, but my friend sends me his NFTs and he's doing some music stuff in the NFT space there, which is cool. But I don't think they've captured the imagination of people besides people just collecting, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel like there's a powerful paradigm there in the platform. So
yeah, it's tough to say because maybe I'm not just involved in those discords and in those communities, so it's hard for me to say that opinion I just said before because I feel like I don't have all the facts, but like that's my like baseline feeling.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a great kind of thesis to go off of, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and I've been trying to get one of the founders, the guy that was part of the USDT, the Tether team, on. Can't get his attention, but trying to get him on to ask and understand better, what the value prop is. But okay, all right, cool. What is your greatest fear about the market? Do you feel like we are kind of, hitting bubble level and we are going to have a bit of a crash down and come back? I mean, I was listening to you on Bankless the other day, and you'd made that big prediction, which was, I think you were off by a couple of years because it came like within months, which is really cool and fun. But where do you think we're kind of headed? I don't need like definitive dates and prognostication here, but just, do you see us kind of bursting a little bit and then having the foundations built just like we've done in DeFi, in crypto over and over again? And where do you think we're headed?
Yeah, so I definitely do think that NFTs are in a bull cycle, or in a kind of bubbly environment right now.
Okay.
That's for sure. And then when you look at like, then kind of below that is crypto market is all-time highs. We're also in a bull cycle in crypto.
Sure.
And you look up, below that, traditional markets are at all-time highs. So for me, my biggest fear is a traditional market kind of breakdown, and that would be, the Fed can't save us. Whatever happens next, Fed just doesn't have the ability, or they're doing what they normally do by printing and doing whatever, buying whatnot, and it just doesn't have the same impact of supporting the market. That's my biggest fear, because once that happens, then it's like, we're all going down.
Cascading effect.
Because obviously crypto and traditional markets have been pretty correlated, especially this year. And then I do believe that there is some correlation between NFTs and crypto. Obviously, people in crypto have tripled their net worth, and they're like, hey, what do I spend it on? Do I buy a Rolex, or do I buy CryptoPunk all the way, right?
Right.
So that's one thing that worries me a lot. But I think even without the traditional markets collapsing, I do think that this crypto bull cycle will kind of have a pullback. Let's call it, could be 3 months, could be 9 months. I think it's going to come within the next year or so. And when that happens, I do think that NFTs will settle down. We're already seeing the volumes of NFTs kind of drop down to kind of normalize at certain levels. When the bull market, the crypto bull market kind of pops, it's just going to be like, it's going to be the same cycle. It's going to pop. It's going to have a pullback, let's say 50, 60, 70%, who knows? And then it's going to, settle down, and then it's going to build up and continue on its path forward. And the same thing is going to happen with NFTs. But I think that with NFTs, we're going to see them evolve in different ways, in the sense that when they come back, I don't think it's going to be like, who's a good example? Like Rob Gronkowski, like doing NFT on OpenSea, and it buys out, sells out in a second, and everyone,
right.
He's made like a couple $100,000. I think it's going to be, well, this is what I hope. Who knows? It could, in theory, be stuff that's more thought out, more has more longevity to it, has more of an ecosystem and a community built around it. And because there's only so many market participants and so much capital. Yeah. So you can't just like be selling crazy NFTs labeled like Rob Gronkowski, like whoever celebrity every day, and have that going forever.
Yeah.
I think overall it'll be healthy. Like we need a kind of healthy, not reset, but healthy relaxation of the market, so people can say, okay, hey, whoa, that was a little crazy. What do I do with this Rob Gronkowski piece? I don't even like him. And then kind of think more deeply about what they're purchasing. But that also goes hand in hand with, like, I don't know, purchasing art. Like, I can't fault people for purchasing art, even though I don't know why people spend millions of dollars on physical art pieces, right?
Right.
So it's almost like, who am I to say that don't spend that much money on a Rob Gronkowski piece? Because maybe you are a huge fan and maybe you love him, right? So It's like, I don't know. It's in a tough spot, because what's interesting about NFTs, it's super fascinating, is that they're not pure financial assets. Like they're used to defeat the boss in this video game. They're used to display status. They're used to be a part of a community. They're used for all these different purposes that are not monetary, and that's what makes them so interesting and so dynamic. So I don't know. I had these thoughts, and then I'm like, wait a second, I have no right to say these things. Like, these are just like things that people like, right? So
well, I think there are speculators, and then there are people that just love what's getting created, right? Totally, and so I think there are two worlds there. Have you run into anyone? I think one of the gaps for kind of in real world collectors of art and the like, one of the primary reasons for having it is not only the investment value but showing it off. Have you run into anybody doing something like a hardware device connected to OpenSea that lets you put a big frame on your wall and have all your NFT art collectibles spanning it?
So I think Duncan and Griffin Cock-Foster from Nifty Gateway, and then also the Async art team, like Conlon and Nathan and stuff like that, or Nate. Nathan. I think one of them created like an Apple, what's it called? Apple TV app to display your crypto art on your Apple TV.
Oh, cool.
I think someone else one of them made a screen I think it was just like a software for a screen that you put on your wall and you can display your crypto art. But like that to me is like so inevitable. Like that's
It's
100%
got to
going
be
to be the
coming.
future,
Yeah.
right? Because like I have a piece of art hanging on my wall right here, and it's a picture of Hal Finney, right? But it'd be really cool if every day it was something new, or maybe
Right.
every 6 hours or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, that'd be incredible. And also to know that you own the piece is even more impactful versus just
Right.
a slideshow. So yeah, that's going to happen 100%. I just don't know when. Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so let me see if I had anything else important. I've taken a ton of your time. I really appreciate it. Last thing is, who, one or two or a couple more people, I forgot to turn off my ringer, that you think are brilliant in our space or are really critical, or both, to our space? The people that you think are really making things happen, or just really
Oh my
critical
gosh,
to it?
this is like an impossible question. I
I know.
think,
That's why I ask it.
oh man, yeah. I mean, uh, Maddie, Whale Shark, Gabby, Tudor, Metakoven, Snowfro, Jim, Nate, Alex, Pranksy, like like I can just keep going. Like there's so
All
many
right,
people
send me a
that are
list.
just yeah. I will. So many people have been so impactful in the space and so impactful on my journey through the space. So no, I can't do it justice. It would be I have to send you a list.
All right, that's cool. It's a tough question, and I think that is there any project? Oh, that's the other question I want to ask you. Are you seeing in your pitches? And I know your pitches are not focused on this, but are you seeing in your pitches other uses outside of kind of art, metaverse, gaming for NFTs that you think are really amazing? I mean, people talk about documents and contracts and that kind of stuff, but I'm wondering if anybody else is bundling really cool stuff into NFTs that you think have a real future.
So not really on the category side. I think it's like leveling up or enabling the certain categories that exist today to do different things. So as I mentioned before, the bundles, that uniquely bundle, like that's really cool.
Yeah.
But then also like something like what Alethea is doing with their kind of technology, like that's also incredible. So like I don't, we haven't seen like the new insurance NFT insurance marketplace kind of pop up
Right.
yet, but like that'll come 100%.
Yeah.
I think that it's more developers are more excited about these metaverse native use cases versus like insurance or music or whatever.
Sure.
But I know that's coming for sure.
No, I was just curious if you'd seen any. I do remember a couple of years ago, and I don't know if they're still around or not. There was a firm doing hurricane insurance where all payments were automatic, and it was a set payment amount. So if a hurricane hit at a specific category level within X miles of your address, you automatically received the Ethereum in your wallet from payment, whether you had damage or not. And everybody is kind of like, well, this is awesome because I don't want to deal with it. But so I think there's all kinds of cool models coming, but I don't know if that one ever survived or not.
Totally.
How can everybody reach you? And if they want to pitch you, how should they reach you? And what should they pitch? How should they pitch you? But what's the best way to find you, and what's the best way to pitch you?
Yeah, I'd say Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. Name's Andrew Steinwold. I can maybe send it to you or something like that.
And I'll put it in the show notes.
Cool. Yeah. So and then how I get multiple inbounds daily on certain pitches, but oftentimes it's people saying, hey, check out my art or check out my project. What I love is to see a deck or a one pager just to briefly explain the project, or even if someone can just provide a very high level overview of who they are, what they're building, what they're doing, why is it exciting, just basic things like that. Okay. And then I review that, and then if I find it interesting, then I'm like, definitely let's jump on a call. And I'm very open to any type of project in the NFT sector, but I just like to see that people are putting in some sort of effort to present it in some sort of way that is very clear and concise versus people DM me say, hey, I got a cool idea, let me talk to you about it, and like kind of not very direct.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than the Twitter DM that starts with hello. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, just get to the point, please.
Yeah.
How long does it take you usually to invest from initial pitch to?
So we like to take a long time, but it depends on right now the environment's insane. Yeah. It's like if you wait a day, it's like people will say, hey, yeah, sorry, we're full. Come back to us later. So it really depends on the environment. Right now it's pretty frenzied, so you have to act quickly. But I do think that at the end of the day, if you can develop your thesis on why something will or will not succeed, and you can be that can be done if you dive deep. It can be done in a few hours, depending on the project. Some of them are really complicated and you can't do that. But if you talk to the team and get reference checks about them and dive into the product, then it can be done in a very short amount of time.
Cool. Do you ever invest in anonymous projects?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Great info. I think everybody's going to learn a lot from this. I really appreciate it, man. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and looking forward to our next chat.
Cool. I'll ping you when we get it out, and I definitely want to have you back on to kind of look back at things here in the next few months.
Perfect. All right, man. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. Bye.
I think I told you needed to sit down for this one. It's a long one, but there was so much good information. If you loved it as much as I did, please rate us, review us, share us on Twitter, nftcast.show. Let your friends know. We love you and we appreciate you listening to us. To learn more about the project that I work for and that sponsors this podcast, please visit dokidoki.finance or spin our machines at dagacha.com. We're changing the face of NFT with an amazing gamified experience, and artists are loving being on our machines. Thanks again for listening. Bye.